I'm very happy to be presenting and starting this first meetup in the 2022. My name is Van Dam, and when it comes to the tech team, I will probably need reminder not to walk too much if I walk too much. So because I have to be in front of the camera. So if I start walking, just remind me. My name is Van Dam, and I speak fluent Polish. So if at any point of this presentation something is unclear and then you need a translation, just let me know. But I do prefer practicing my English. One of the reasons for that is because I work at an international organization, which is INCO Group. And what we do is we try to create opportunities for future that is more sustainable and more diverse, but also tech-driven and impact driven. So what we do is we invest in organizations, startups and NGOs that are creating solutions for more sustainable and more diverse future. But we also train people who might not have easy access to tech training, but they do want to contribute to that future. And one of the directions we're also exploring, and we already started training, is training people into green sectors, also with tech skills, because this is what we see as a very interesting future and very actually necessary for us to thrive as not only as individuals, but in general as world. So I was very happy that Piotr approached me to make this presentation, because it was an opportunity for me to ask myself a tricky question, which is how to save the world as a tech professional. And I like asking myself tricky questions. I might not give you a perfect answer to this, because I think even though it's a very important question, very difficult, it's also actually not very well stated in my opinion. So it's more like a clickbait for you to join today. So I believe that a problem well stated is actually half solved, and the problems, the issues I have with this question, how to save the world as a tech professional, is one, what are we saving exactly? Because we are not sure, the world we're experiencing is very different for each of us. So which elements of that world we actually want to save? And what are we saving it from? Who are actually tech professionals? Because we are not all the same. And why would those people, you, us, would actually claim the power to save the world? And how much impact do we actually have as individuals, and how much we can actually change in the future that we are going to experience? So when I ask myself these questions, some of the reflections I have is that, first of all, not all is worth saving. It's not like we want to keep the world as it is. For example, we might not want to still keep the software and services that are helping some people scam individuals into, for example, buying some medicine to enlarge different parts of their body. This is not something that we might want to save in this world. There isn't just one problem, one challenge, one villain, one boss. This is not a movie, so it's a difficult question what we are saving this world from. Each of us has very different skill sets, capacity, motivation, needs when it comes to our not only our skills, but time, energy, um, also our well-being, mental health, and so on. So we have to take that into account. And as individuals, we don't actually have the full understanding of necessary actions to be taken. This is regarding to why do we actually claim the power to change the world? Because one of the things that I want to be very mindful of is that I don't want us to be like white saviors coming to India where we don't understand what's going on and just proposing a great software to solve all their problems. So as individuals, we don't have the full understanding of necessary actions. We can cooperate with each other to understand and work on those solutions. Which brings me to the fact that this is not a movie and we can't save the world as individuals. We can't even create a 10 people Avengers team to save that world. And if you think that your individual's actions make impact, they do make impact just on some level, and that level, unfortunately, is not so meaningful. This is a sad realization that we don't have so much impact, but As soon as we realize it, as soon as we accept it, we can move on to the fact that we can make an impact together through collaboration and through collaborative efforts into that direction. So when it comes to the villains, because this is an interesting question for me, there is more than one villain, and the ones that I've mapped for myself and the ones that we see media focusing on, and current trend books and prognosis for the future are these that I listed here. So I'm going to read out loud one by one, and I would ask you to raise your hand if you actually believe that this is one of the issues that we're facing when it comes to the future of our world. So first is progressing climate disaster. Perfect, thank you. Deepening social and economic inequalities. Thank you. Paralyzing disinformation. Oh yes, tech word, yes. Yes, that's you. And this is my favorite one. Economic system that is allowing the richest 1% to continue destructive actions from which the rest of us 99% are suffering and will be suffering even more. aka capitalism. Okay, I actually expected less. So I'm very happy that there are some people that agree with it. I'm not here to convince you if these are real problems, because I can't do that in 20 minutes. I just need to assume that, and I can see that many of you actually agree with those points. So just to make sure that we understand those challenges, progressing climate disaster, this is something that I think that most of us are quite familiar with. This also leads to inequalities, which are resulting in conflict and in a political and social system that is basically not addressing our needs, and paralyzing this information that is, for example, stopping people from taking vaccination or making informed decisions when it comes to the political, social, and also just mental well-being for themselves too. So these are the villains. And if I think about all those doubts about the question I first asked myself, and about everything that I mentioned before, I think that a better question is to ask ourselves how to contribute to the shared future we hope for with the skills we have, which means that this is not an individual work, we are contributing. And the future we're building is not only the future that we envision and we are going to live, but this is a future that we're going to share with other people on this planet. And we hope for, because I think that hope is one of the key elements of actually taking an action. Because if you don't have hope, you basically don't have any motivation to take an action. And if you're hoping for the future, and you hope to participate in shaping it, you need to contribute to collaborative efforts. And the skills we have, because each of us has different skills. And why should we actually do it? And why am I speaking here at this meeting to you tech professionals? Because one of the main challenges that I hear organizations that are working on tech solutions to fight climate change, on social impact initiatives, is that solutions need talent, and there is lack of talent, because you are much better paid by business organizations than governmental, than non-profit, than those that are trying to change something in the long term instead of gaining a lot of money in the short term. So this is why I want to convince you to try to think about how your talent can contribute to the effort that I want to convince you to make. Tech impact is growing. You have impact on almost every aspect of our life. Tech impact is everywhere. It's not only in one country, it's global, it's across the whole world, and you can actually do it. You do have skills, you do have time, you do have capacity. You might have different level or different skills, but still you can do it. And actually, comparing to many other individuals who are struggling economically, struggling in their lives, you might be in the much more privileged position than those people. So you can use that privilege to actually make the change. So I kind of drafted, maybe not job descriptions, but I created different profiles of future shapers, a junior, a mid, a senior, and an executive. And I described some of the actions that you can take, you can make inside your organizations as professionals, but also outside your organizations. So if you want to start with something basic, one of the things that you can do is you can explore how your organization, where you're working, addresses the key issues that I mentioned before, or if it's open to it, if it's not addressing it. Just starting the conversation is already the first step that you can take. You can explore in your organization who shares that interest in key issues. So you might not be the one initiating on leading, but maybe there are other people for whom this is important matter, and you can be their ally. So you can openly support their conversations and decision making regarding environmental and social impact in your organizations. And what you can do outside of the organization yourself is, first of all, educate yourself on how your sector and how your profession impacts negatively key issues. And after I go through those future shaper profiles, I will also share a lot of resources and advices and places where you can seek that information. You can support organizations financially because they need that money, and you can basically support them, support people who are already invested in social impact, environmental impact through your resources. And you can also volunteer initiatives involved in key issues in your sector. And actually, Warsaw JS is one of the organizations that is providing very much accessible training to people who want to start a career in tech. And this is something that helps people who might not have such career opportunities change their lives and change their socioeconomic status. So changing the inequalities in the sector. So that's one of the reasons why I'm engaged with Warsaw JS, because what they contribute to the community. If you see yourself in the mid future shaper position, it doesn't mean that you don't need to do the stuff that the junior does. This is an additional step that you can take, and I very much encourage you to do also everything that the junior future shaper does. But here you can also educate your organization on how you affect and can address key issues. So you not only ask if they care, but you also try to teach them what they can do and what's actually happening when they're doing their business. I can recommend you some people who can run such workshops and educational sessions in your organization. So just reach out to me after the meetup or online. You can also support implementation of good practices in your teams and fields that affect key issues. And I'm going to share with you some cross-sector standards that you can use and you can show in your organizations and say that, hey, let's try to implement at least some of those points. And you can encourage your organization to be involved in projects addressing key issues, so supporting maybe not only with your resources, but your organization's resources, supporting other nonprofits and social impact, environmental impact initiatives. And not only educate yourself on how your sector affects the key issues, but how you can also contribute and how your sector can contribute to solving those problems. You can support organizations with your skills in your spare time, but one of the ideas that I really like and I'd like you to consider is maybe if you're feeling burnt out, and I hear that it happens a lot in this industry, then maybe you could consider taking a year gap where you would still work and get money, but you could get involved in an organization, but that might not usually be able to afford your skills, and you can provide those skills through this year gap in which you engage in an interesting project that is working for better good and where you can share your skills. You can also educate your professional network on how your sector impacts and can contribute to addressing key issues, because as I said, this is not individual work. We need allies, we need collaboration. So we need other people to understand what's going on and how we can change it. Senior Future Shaper actually not only encourages to implement good practices, but actually does it. And it is not only encouraging organization to be involved in projects addressing key issues, but is actually leading them, initiating them, and can also become a role model in the organization to encourage others to join you. So you actually get people to join the force and work together on the change in your organization. And and once you already know how your profession, how your sector affects the key issues, how you can contribute, you can also explore how to most effectively contribute to the change and which areas are the key ones. Supporting change with your skills by not only taking a year gap, but actually seeking career in impact organizations, public services, because actually what has the largest impact, and we can also see it through changes that we see in Poland, the decisions that public services, that government is taking and the actions they're taking is really affecting us all. So contributing to it when it makes sense. It's a great opportunity to support it. And I will give you some advice on that later on, because believe me that green sector, impact sector is one of the leading sectors that need tech skills. You don't need to be an NGO professional. We actually need people who have tech skills to help us scale our actions. You can also mentor other professionals on how to contribute to addressing those key issues. And if you are an executive, maybe you can actually shape the strategy and business model of your organization and activities so that it actually includes impact and it plans for a longer future than just the financial benefits that you can get in the short term. You can enforce good practices in organizations. So actually make your teams do this. And you can build partnerships with other organizations to scale the impact. You can educate yourself on sustainable future. So not only how your sector and how your profession affects the climate, the society, but what are actually the future scenarios for the future that would be livable and where we could all thrive and would not mean totally destroying the planet and our communities. You can support others in seeking career in impact organizations once you join those careers, and you can become a thought leader and role model not only in your organization but for other professionals and organizations. Educate yourself and others. Here are some books, some podcasts that I highly recommend for you to explore. One of my recommendations is The Ministry for the Future. This book is quite new and it hasn't been translated into Polish, but this is a very hard science fiction, which is very much recommended not only by world leaders, ex-world leaders like Obama, but also popular among tech community. And it shows you very realistic scenarios of the world that we can live in, which means that they are not super optimistic, they're realistic, but they also provide some inspiration on how we can face those and how we can prepare for that. So this is something I highly recommend. Donut Economics is a book that shows you how we can try to reshape economic system, and I know that some of you already agree that capitalism sucks. And this is not actually against capitalism like in general, but it does provide different scenarios and points of view to understand how we can change how we basically shape the world through economics and through our work. Organizing for Sustainability, a guide to developing new business models. This is something that you can use if you can actually affect business models in your organizations, and there is open access to it, which means that it's for free. And Worldwide Waste, this is a very new publication I haven't read yet, but it is exploring how digital is killing our planet, but also how we can, we can do about it. Muda Talks is a Polish podcast that I recommend. And when it comes to English podcast, is How to Save a Planet that I really much enjoy. And it's a very easy way to educate yourself. So these are the books and podcasts I recommend and the ways that you can educate yourself. There are also online courses on sustainability. If you want more recommendations, just let me know. There are some also specific tech guidelines for future shapers, which are very specific to the tech industry and also to actually front web developers and anyone involved in tech. One of them is guidance for ICT companies to set science-based targets. This is also available for free. There is an initiative called Ally that gathers information and good standards practices for accessibility. And you are probably already familiar with web content accessibility guidelines. Another web that I recommend is the sustainablewebdesign.org, where you can find many strategies, but also you can calculate digital emission of the websites of the products that you create. There is also the Diversity and Inclusion Handbook that is available for free by Lever. And this is one of the things that you can explore to make sure that you are including proper action in your organizations to make your organization diverse, inclusive to others. You can join or support or work for impact initiatives. And the ones I recommend, international ones, are climateaction.tech, the Green Web Foundation. You can also explore what they share about solutions. It's a very interesting read. There is also Climate Change AI. One of the Polish initiatives is Tech to the Rescue. It's a very interesting organization that creates a network of tech companies, but also beyond tech, who are ready to provide some time of their professionals to help NGOs across the globe scale their actions. Another initiative similar to that is Reset Digital for Good. And Fundacja Panoptykon is a Polish organization that makes sure that our rights on the internet when it comes to the privacy and the policies are taken care of. And I'm a big fan of this organization. I also added 3 other organizations that are not tech related, because one of the things that I believe that tech organizations, the non-profit tech organizations, they gain a lot of attention right now, and many tech companies want to support them. But this means that other organizations who might not be so sexy for tech industry, but could really use the support, financial support of that sector, might be somewhere in the background. So these are 3 of my favorite ones. Is Dajemy Dzieciom Siłę that supports children, Fundacja Ocalenie, and Serce Miasta is actually very Warsaw centered. I wanted to pick up one organization that is based in Warsaw, and it supports people who are in danger of becoming homeless, and they are facing this issue. Build an impact career. There are some initiatives that can help you decide how your skills can contribute to companies and to organizations that are trying to make a difference and are doing impact work. One of them is Terra.do, and actually one of the creators of Terra.do wrote a very interesting article that was translated on a Sector 3.0 blog, which is also a very interesting book that I recommend. And the article Jak mogę pomóc w rozwiązaniu problemu zmian klimatu, jeśli jestem specem od technologii, shows interesting stories of people who change their careers, and also gives you some advice on how to do it. Climate Base is another initiative where you can join initiatives with your skills to face climate change. And one I just found today, and it's very interesting, is 80,000 hours. So the idea behind this organization is that we have 80,000 hours of our work as professionals, and we can make a very conscious decision on how to invest that time. And they're actually helping you understand how you can change your career, not only when it comes to the climate change, but basically build a meaningful career in various organizations. One of the main advices I also want to give you when you'll be deciding what to actually do, what actions to take, is to make sure that you choose something that fits you. So what you should do is not necessarily what people tell you that you should do. It's something that needs to fit your needs, your motivation, and your skills. So the questions you can ask yourself is, what are you good at? What is the work that needs doing? but also what brings you joy. Because without it, it will be very easy to burn out and to feel that you're not actually making the difference. So this is the strategy for choosing the actions that I recommend to you. And just to wrap up, because one of the questions I was once asked was, why should I take those action and why should I do the good if every single company, every single professional that is successful somehow actually chose not to do good, to make that profit, not to waste time, but to build a career. So I only have one answer to it, and it's basically this meme. So in a game with no consequences, why are you still playing the good side? Why I do it is just because being mean makes me feel bad. So that's my reason. That might be your reason too. We don't actually need any reason or any explanation to anyone to explain why we are trying to make an impact. So I very much encourage you to ask yourself what you can do, what you would like to do, so that you can become a future shaper and contribute to our shared future that we hope for. Thank you so much. So yes, I can get questions. You can also connect with me through LinkedIn and Facebook, just so you know. And I also have a newsletter when I ask myself many more different questions, and I share them through a newsletter that you can subscribe to on zapamiętnik.com. Question?
There is a question from you.
Yes.
Hi, thanks a lot for the talk. It was very inspirational. My question would be, if you maybe have some examples of a specific projects that maybe you're involved in, or maybe projects by those organizations that you mentioned, where our skills could be beneficial. I think it would help shed some light on how we can be impactful.
Yes. Yes, sure. So, so for example, one of the things that we do as INCO is we are running tech training to people who cannot afford it or who are from underserved communities. And one of the things that you can do is you can be their mentor to show them different paths that they can pursue. So this is an effort to build a more diverse and inclusive future, especially in the job sector. But another thing is that, for example, Tech to the Rescue has many organizations, NGOs in the network where, for example, in a specific region of the world, they are struggling with reaching out to specific communities with information that they need to prepare for the climate change affecting their crops, as for example, rolnicy, farmers. So they might need a tool, and sometimes it's not about even building something from scratch. You have to realize that many of the organizations that I'm talking about, they actually might not know that there is Slack, that there is, I don't know, Google Workspace that could help them coordinate the work between them. And sometimes what they need is just understanding how technology can help them. So these are the examples. I don't know if this is a good enough examples, or is it clear enough?
Totally. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
All right, next question.
Oh, and of course, for example, one of the organizations I met during one of the meetings about impact, there is a company in Poland that is creating a software so that different communities like cities, towns, but also specific buildings can analyze how they're using energy, if it's efficient, and how to change it, and also how to plan financially and how to plan operationally to make it more efficient and more sustainable. So for example, like that. And this is one of the organizations that said that they can't hire people because they can't afford the specialists that they need.
One more question from Jacek.
I would like to ask you about this green sector. Would you give some examples when the impact was meaningful and big, that you could measure it actually, that it was some big positive change?
That's a question I can't answer because I was too tired to find a proper example, but there are examples for sure, and I will find it, I will share it with you. When it comes to measurement, we are able to measure as any action. It is possible to measure it. For example, just like the example I gave you about the analyzing how communities use energy and how they can create more sustainable solutions. So this is something that you can measure throughout the time. So to see if the changes they applied based on the analysis made by that software are actually creating a change. But unfortunately, right now I don't have like a very specific regarding the climate change.
Okay, amazing. I promised 3 questions, so the last question from Pavel.
Hi there. First
Hi.
of all, thank you so much for the talk. And well, I'm not an expert and I don't know much about economics and politics. However, I just wonder, probably most of the systems have some flaws, but I just wonder if capitalism is so bad, then what's your solution? Do you have any other ideas? What can we do about it? Some better solution?
That's a great question. Thank you. Yes, I actually do have an answer, but you might not like it. So, so first of all, is capitalism so bad? It is so bad that when I actually read the trend books that are even created by banks, they actually start to speak the language that is anti-capitalist. So it's so bad. So, and of course, many systems have flaws, and there is a saying that it's much easier to imagine end of the world than end of capitalism. And it might be true. What I actually myself very personally believe in is creating intentional communities that support each other and can sustain their own living without mass production and without global production. So I'm not saying how it will exactly work out, but actually maybe one of the books that you could read to explore different scenarios, there is a specific book that it's called Another Now, and it does explore an alternative world where there are no banks and there is almost no capitalism. So that might be interesting for you. It is too hard for me to imagine end of capitalism. It is easier for me to imagine end of the world than end of capitalism. But I also heard a very inspiring sentence just recently listening to one of the podcasts is that it seems like it is easier for us to imagine how to learn to die than imagine how to learn to fight. And this is something that kind of hit me, that yes, I might give up fighting capitalism because I have no chances. This is this 1%, who am I to fight them? But on the other hand, I don't want to stop learning how to fight if I still can. And there is also this thought that even if everything is going to fail and there's just end of world in front of us, it still means a lot to say no to it. Because otherwise you just don't express anything and you just don't take this opportunity to stay true to your values.
Give a hand to Vanani. Incredible. Thank you very much. That was amazing.